What's up, guys? Had a monster Saturday, 6-1. It was really close to being 7-0, sweep of the board. We had 4-0 in college football from the plays on my college football show. College football has not been my best, but maybe we're ending it on a hot streak here. It's been better in the second half of the season, at least. And yesterday was wild. Yesterday was nice. A couple of those games were just completely in the bag, like right away. Wyoming, Arizona, those were basically over as soon as they started. Love seeing that. And then the other two were close. North Texas, I think they were the better team in that one, and they had the lead. It was back and forth between having the lead, being tied, having the lead, being tied. They wound up on the right side of it, and probably got the luckiest with South Carolina. But as I mentioned, I was way ahead of the line moving that one, at least by like 4.5 points. So I had them as the 2.5 point underdog or 2 point underdog or whatever, and they went off a 2.5 point favorite or so. Still got there, although they got slightly outplayed statistically, but it was close enough that it could have gone like either way, at least kind of a toss up. So in that case, there's kind of value in being on the underdog. And as I said, the line value was there on that one as the line movement reflected. So we got there on all of those. Got a nice, huge double-digit money line underdog cash on Maryland Eastern Shore, Penn and letdown spot there. That was pretty good. Maryland Eastern Shore was in that game for the whole time. It looked like they were probably going to lose and cover, but then they wound up doing it. They wound up winning outright. So love seeing that. Hockey wound up getting there, even though that was a close one as well. The Islanders. You play a close game like that's neck and neck, and you're the underdog price. It's got to be value there. So that's the way that was. And then the NBA one was the only one that didn't get there. The Golden State Warriors. One thing that and it should have, by the way, absolutely. One thing that I forgot to mention in my breakdown of that is that the prior game when Golden State got blown out by Oklahoma City shot like 60% from 3 point range in that game with a pretty good amount of 3 point attempts. So that's like unheard of. You usually don't see that. And when you see stuff like that, and they were like 56% from the floor in general or something. So when you see that kind of outlier field goal percentage like that, that's like well above the league average in one game, it tends to regress to the mean after that. So that was another reason why I was fading Oklahoma City in that one. It should have gotten there. If you saw the ending of that game, which I didn't see, but I went back and I looked at what happened. Golden State, they started off pretty poorly in that game, but they had a really good second quarter, I think, and got right back into it. They were in the game the whole time, and not only were they in the game, but they should have won. It came down to right at the end, it was a tied game, and then I think Wiggins hit a three with 3 seconds left for Golden State. So now you're up 3. I have them as a plus 3 point underdog, which, by the way, line value on that one, because I think when it tipped off, I think Golden State was a 2 point favorite because of the confirmation that Curry was playing. I thought the line already reflected that he was playing, but it shifted even more than that. So I had like 5 points of value on that number. So that was objectively a good bet, and it should have come through anyway. Just the situation, I think, was right for it as well. But yeah, I had them at plus 3. It was in the 1 range. Oklahoma City -1, like everywhere, pretty much when I gave it out, and I still liked it there. And it wound up Golden State -2 to tip off the game. But yeah, what happened was, so Wiggins hit that 3 with 3 seconds left. You're sitting on a plus 3. You're like, of course they're going to cover this. Like, obviously, they have to. They should foul intentionally, though, and win the game, right? Why would you allow a 3 point attempt when you know Oklahoma City's only going to get one more possession? Do you not foul them intentionally and just make sure to stay ahead of them in the free throw battle? Like, they're only going to be able to foul you intentionally like one more time. Don't let them take the 3. No, they didn't do that, though. Steve Kerr, I don't know what he's doing. They let Oklahoma City take the 3. They hit it. It went into overtime, and you're still thinking in overtime you got a plus 3 underdog and a money line underdog sprinkle. Like, that's still not a bad situation. Like, they should still hopefully cover that, but in overtime, you never know what happens when it comes down the stretch, and the team that's losing by a little bit has to intentionally foul, and that can jack the number over that. And I don't know exactly what happened at the end of that, but Golden State winds up losing by 6 or something in OT. That's just a brutal way to lose that. It's a pretty bad beat. keeping me off of the 7-0 day. So that was unfortunate, but it's the way it is. Sometimes it's still a very good day, an excellent day overall. College football was great. That money line cash in college basketball was awesome. I loved that. Let's move to today, where I only have one play on the board besides the NFL plays, but the NFL plays are in my NFL video, so you can go check that out. I don't know if there's anything more to comment on in the NFL that I didn't mention in that video already, other than I didn't mention the Bears-Lions, although I think the Lions are also probably going to go against spot situationally for the most part. They're sitting at an 8-point favorite with 86% of the cash, but 88% of the tickets. Of course, the Lions are going to be the public team. The public is in love with their offense. They love high-scoring offenses, and they certainly don't want anything to do with the Chicago Bears. But the Lions are coming off that barn burner win over the Chargers on the road. So they were in the Pacific time zone, and now they're coming back to their home. And then not only that, but they have to quickly turn around and they host the Thanksgiving game, the first one, the early one, the annual Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers. Even though the Packers are down this year, that's still a big nationally televised game. So it is possible that they could overlook the Bears here, although it is a divisional matchup. And the one other thing, so I think it's like a sandwich for the most part for the Lions. But the other thing about it is that Justin Fields, I believe, is coming back for the Chicago Bears, which is why I think this line was a little bit higher than the 8 at one point, and then it came back down to the 8, which I think was maybe the look ahead or something, which I don't know if that was factoring into the factoring in that Fields was coming back. I don't know, but I believe Justin Fields is returning for this game, so that might have some effect here, and it might be that reverse injured player theory type of thing on the Bears, where actually maybe now the Bears, maybe the line should be the Lions, -9 or 10 or something. I don't really know. And the Bears are getting a couple of points because Justin Fields is coming back, and Bagent, he's been serviceable-ish. They've won some games, but they've done it against really bad teams, and I think it's certainly an upgrade to have Fields coming back, but he's been gone for a while, and they were doing okay without him, so they might take their foot off the gas a little bit. In general, in a situation where Fields is coming back, and the line is going to reflect Fields coming back, and might overreact to it a little bit. That reverse injured player theory that I constantly talk about. But in a case where it's the Detroit Lions, and you're going to their house, they're leading your division, the Bears are not going to overlook the Lions. They're not really going to take their foot off the gas in that situation. So there are kind of some conflicting things there that keep me off of that a little bit, but I do lean against the Lions because I think the situation is worse for them there, even though the Bears do have Justin Fields returning, and I don't think it's impacting the line that much. So that is the way I look at that one. I don't think there are any other NFL games that I should talk about. Check out my video. I got 3 plays in there, and I don't know if I'm liking what I'm seeing there. The market still looks like it's against me on the Sunday night game with the Vikings-Broncos, so I think the Broncos are in a bad spot, man, but I don't like being against where the market indicators are, so that's a tough one. And then the market is actually starting to indicate against me on the Cardinals-Texans game too, which I'm not sure I buy any of that. I think the Texans are very clearly in a bad spot, and I don't see the angle for taking the Texans at all really there, so I don't know. I don't know about that. College basketball, I just pass, basically. Don't have a comment on this again. Yesterday, I had a spot that I was looking forward to because I knew that team was going to be a letdown spot, and there might be some other ones that I'm just ignoring that might be out there. And I think there was one other one that I had in mind where I was I'm going to look to go against this team. I looked back in the schedule and I couldn't find it. I'm what was I thinking? So I just don't know. But you got all these ridiculous early season tournaments going on in the Bahamas, Myrtle Beach, Virgin Islands. I don't even know what's happening. These college players, man, you have to gauge whether they're going to treat it as a vacation or whether they're going to play seriously, and then what has happened in the tournament so far. And it's just it's crazy. I don't love the matchups in those, so that's just the way it is. Moving to NHL, I don't have anything there either. And there is another Sweden game that's already in play right now between Toronto and Minnesota. Toronto's the other team that's out there right now that I forgot to mention yesterday, but And Minnesota, I thought was in a good. I thought the market was at least indicating that Minnesota was a decent play yesterday, but that didn't get there. What can you do? With the NHL, maybe a lean, maybe it would be against the Philadelphia Flyers, but it does look like they're up from minus 150 to minus 153 with 86% of the cash on them, but 80% of the tickets. So it looks like the market is kind of indicating that some more of the significant money is on the Flyers, but I don't like it. I would only look to go against the Flyers here. And they're on a huge win streak, a 4-game win streak. And in that win streak, they were out on the West Coast and they won after they lost to the Sharks. That was somehow the only game they lost on that trip. They then beat the Ducks, the Kings, and then came back east and beat the Hurricanes. Then they came home, and you think, well, they're in a home like distraction spot, except for the fact that the Vegas Knights, returning champs, are coming in, and they beat them too in a shootout, I think. And I think that was yesterday. So the Flyers are certainly not in a spot where I'd want to have anything to do with them at this point. That's a crazy slew of games there. But between the Carolina and the Vegas game, they did have a couple days off, so there was that. But now they're in a back-to-back and coming off that gigantic overtime win, not shootout win, and having a lowly Columbus team coming in. So I don't like the spot for the Flyers. But Columbus, I believe, also played yesterday, and they played tough against the Washington Capitals and lost right at the end. I think Ovechkin, who's somehow still playing, even though he's probably 50 years old, he scored the winning goal in that game, I'm pretty sure. So kind of tough way to lose for Columbus there. And they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. So I just can't get there, man. I don't want to touch it, but I certainly want nothing to do with the Philadelphia Flyers in a situation like that. And that was like the one thing that popped out at me a little bit, where I was looking at potentially going against the Flyers there, but I'm not going to be able to get there with that. And let's move to NBA, where I'm going to have one player. I think it's a pretty good play. And maybe some other ways to look here, some like maybe leans slightly, like the Toronto Raptors. I don't think I would want anything to do with them, even though they're up from an 8-point favorite to a 9-point favorite with 90% of the cash and 79% of the tickets. So it looks like there is some money moving the line on the Raptors up, but I don't like it. And the Raptors are coming off a big game against the Boston Celtics, and they're coming off back-to-back big games kind of against the Bucks and the Celtics. But the Celtics game was the game where they came back. They were losing like the whole early portion of that game. They came back and they actually had a lead, I think, with like a couple minutes left in the game. I think Toronto actually had taken the lead. So it's like they could have won that game against the Celtics. And I had mentioned Toronto as a lean in that one. They certainly covered the number in that one, and they wound up just losing like right at the end there. So tough way to lose against the Boston Celtics there. So that's why I think they're in a hangover spot after almost having the Celtics, almost being able to beat the Celtics there. It's a tough turnaround for Toronto to now have to play the Detroit Pistons. And as we know, I like playing the Detroit Pistons. They've been good to me, very good to me. But I just don't think I can quite get there with it, because the Pistons are off of that game against the Cavs where they played them to within the number as well. And fairly a max effort game there where they had to come back from like a pretty big early deficit and wound up getting the cover there. I don't know if I can quite get there with it. And going up to Toronto, maybe not the best spot, but Toronto, they're in a bad spot off of, that almost win against the Celtics. So I could only look to go against Toronto there. I do not like this spot the Indiana Pacers are in, but I don't know if I can quite get there with them either. Looking at that one, the market, I think, agrees with me on this one on the Orlando Magic. The Pacers are up to a 4.5-point favorite, and they're public. They're up from 3.5 to 4.5 with 79% of the tickets, but 51% of the cash on the other side on the Orlando Magic. So even though the line looks like it's moved up a point, it does look like the market discrepancy is heavily on the Orlando Magic, and I believe that to be because the Indiana Pacers beat the 76ers in the last game. That was a big win for the Pacers. It was one of those zigzag situations where they had just lost at Philly the game before that, and then in the second game, Philly had to deal with the zigzag situation where you just beat that team and you have to play them again, and Philly had the Celtics up on deck. So I'd mentioned the Pacers as a pretty strong lean in that one, and I kind of wish I wound up playing that one. So now after that, the Pacers being in a good spot and the Sixers being in a bad spot in that one, so the Pacers were able to get that win. Now I think the Pacers are in a bad spot again, coming off that, and they are returning home. But the hesitation I have here is that they have 4 days off before this, so that's the one thing that keeps me off of this a little bit. But I think they got to be overvalued. They're sitting at 7-4. And people see they have a couple of impressive wins now against the Phillies, against the Philadelphia 76ers and against the Milwaukee Bucks. So, but I still think Indiana, as the line is kind of indicating, I think they're not quite as good as their record makes them seem that they are, but that might also be the case with Orlando. And Orlando's coming off a sweep of the Chicago Bulls in one of those weird back-to-backs where they won both games against the Chicago Bulls, where I thought that they were kind of ripe to get caught by the zigzag in the second game of that series, and that didn't happen. Orlando, shockingly, is a half game out of first place in their division behind Miami, which is insane to think about. So just some of those things kind of give me pause in this game a bit to want to actually play it, where I think both of these teams are maybe a bit overvalued based on their record being a little bit better than the teams actually are. But for the most part, yes, I agree with the market discrepancy here, and I think the Pacers are in the worst situational spot because they're coming off a big win, beating the 76ers. That's the way I look at that. What else we got here? Oh, Kings Mavericks, I didn't even look at it. Oh, man, do I have to do on-the-fly handicapping right now? I skipped that game completely, I think. And I don't think I'm going to play it. I gotta look, though. I don't like to leave, really good spots out there on the board. Although the Dallas Mavericks are returning home from a road trip, a 4-game road trip where they finished by barely losing to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Kings have flipped from a 3-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite here, and they're 70%. They had 70% of the cash, but only 52% of the tickets, and that line's going to look sus. So there is a market discrepancy, and the line has moved a lot on the Kings, flipping them to the favorite on the road against the Mavericks. Do the Mavericks have an injury or something? I don't know, because that's going to look really sus, because the Mavs have a really good record, and people are going to look at that and see how is it at all possible that the Kings are a favorite against them on the road? Everybody knows the Mavs. I have the Mavs as the better team over the Kings right now. So yeah, it just looks sus. I don't know how that's possible. I gotta look real quick to see if the Mavs have an injury factoring in there, because that's the only thing that I can think of. I don't know what's going on here. Sorry, I'm doing this handicapping on the fly here. No, it doesn't really look like it. There's not really anything there with the Mavs injury, so that's crazy, man. Mavs, like I said, they're off that tough loss to the Bucks. They got the Kings coming into town, and they're returning home from a road trip. And they have the LA Lakers up next, and then the LA Clippers. And the Mavs are playing a back-to-back, and they were just in Milwaukee. Are you actually going to see me make a play on the fly here? What did Sacramento do last? I believe they're doing the Texas triangle thing right now. They just beat the Spurs, but that was after beating the Lakers. Oh, yeah, that was the game where I thought they were in a down spot because it was sandwiched between the Lakers and the Mavs. They do have one day off, and their next opponent is New Orleans, so they might be focused on this, man. I think this is a bad spot for Dallas. The one other thing I want to look at here, sorry I'm taking this long, handicapping it on the fly. Was this game close? Was Dallas in it near the end? Yes, they were. It looks like they were within 3 or 2 points with a minute left in that game at Milwaukee. After they were winning most of the later portion of the game against Milwaukee. I'd rather take the +3, but let's see what numbers we can get here. I think I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to take the Kings. Shit. Maybe money line. Best I can do is -1.5. Although this looks like it only opened at +1, so I don't know what the +3 is that I'm seeing on the other board there on pregame saying it was the opener. Maybe that was a really stale line that didn't really exist. I'm doing it. I'm taking the Kings -1.5. That's what I just did. Let's do it. All right, so we got the Kings, and then so you see me finding a play that I had just completely not even looked at on the board. Hopefully that was a good enough handicap there, a good enough overview of what I just did there. But the Mavericks are returning home from a road trip, so I think they're in a distraction spot, and they're in a back-to-back, playing in multiple different cities there. And the Kings, they do have momentum. They just came off a game against the Spurs, but it was a game that they probably weren't paying that much attention to. They're a big road favorite, and I think they might have been 9.5 in some books. So I think the Spurs might have covered some numbers that were out there because it landed like right near the number. It landed 9, and I think the number was alternating between like 8.5, 9.5, that range. But Kings, it wasn't the greatest performance for the Kings, but they got a win anyway, so it kind of like is a momentum continuer in a game where you have a team that has a really bad record and you might not have really taken them totally seriously. Kings also do have one day off, and they're probably going to be focused on this game against the Mavericks. And like I said, the line looks very sus. It's like, how could you not take the team with the better record, the team that everybody thinks is the better team at home in the Dallas Mavericks? So that's the way I look at that. Even though I did say that I think I do have the Mavericks as actually the better teams, that would indicate that the Mavs should probably be like a 2.5 point home favorite or something. But either way, it's kind of just like picking the winner. Everything looks suspicious about it. I could be wrong about which team is the better team. The Kings, I think, certainly have been undervalued a little bit because their start to the season has not been good. So has been worse than how the team actually is. So that's what I'm doing there. We'll look at that. We got Suns, Jazz. The market indicators on this one are indicating on the Jazz, even though the line has moved up from the Suns -4 to -5 on the road. And the Suns have 68% of the tickets, but 74% of the cash is on Utah, on the Jazz. And this is just one of those zigzag scenarios. And the line in the first game was Suns -5.5. So that's why I agree with the market, and I lean to the Jazz in this one slightly. However, the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause on this, and also if you look at it, Phoenix shot out of their minds in that game from three-point range, like almost 55%. So that's something that's not really like that repeatable, I would say. So expect a little bit of a regression there. The line was 5.5 in that game, 5.5 to 5. Not much of a difference there. So in the zigzag scenario, of course, you have typically what you see is that the team that lost the game is the team that has all the adjustments to make, and that's what they do. But the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause on this one is that, and I don't think the Phoenix Suns have anything upcoming in their schedule to like cause them to be looking ahead in any in really a significant way here. Yeah, they have Portland next, so no. But the thing that gives me pause on this is that Utah did cover the spread in that game. So Phoenix started out really hot. They were winning by a lot early on in that game. Utah caught all the way up, took the lead, and then Phoenix retook the lead and kind of bolstered the lead a bit later in the second half. And then Utah made another big comeback right near the end to make it close. They might have taken the lead again near the end. I don't even know. It was close. It got really close again right near the end. So that's the one thing that maybe keeps me off it a little bit is that Utah put in a max effort there to try to get that upset. They were almost able to do it. And that might cause Phoenix to actually look and have some adjustments to make because they're the better team and they let that lead slip and didn't play as well as they maybe could have, even though their three-point percentage was way high. Utah's shooting was also quite good in that game. So a little bit of some conflicting situations there, really. But I still overall would lean to Utah. As far as maybe like the zigzag-ish situation, but maybe it's not even really a zigzag necessarily because Utah did cover the number in the previous game. So all that in mind, it wouldn't be the strongest. That's why it wouldn't be the strongest play to take Utah. I was considering it originally, and I almost was going to get there, and then I looked at the situation. I'm like, yeah, well, they did cover. It keeps me off it a little bit because that might cause the Suns to focus a little bit because they know they didn't play that well and they almost got caught in that game. And Utah put in a big effort to try to win that game. So that keeps me off it a little bit. The other game that I'm on in the NBA, though, I think this is a pretty good one. Portland Trailblazers taking a lot of points at home. I got +7. The market looks like it's down from 7.5 to 6.5 range. with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I would try to get the 7 if you can, because it's somewhat key in basketball, and that just when you hit the 7, that becomes a three possession game instead of a 2 possession game. So teams stop intentionally fouling at that point. So that's the only thing there. I found 7 out there. I think there are still 7s out there. It looks like 6.5 with juice seems to kind of be the consensus there. So that's kind of like the same thing as 7. So I think they are out there. Thunder have 83% of the tickets on them. Everyone loves what they're seeing out of the Thunder right now. But 80% of the cash are taking the Portland Trailblazers, who I don't think anybody's going to want anything to do with the Trailblazers, but the spot that the Thunder are in is a horrific spot. This is a terrible spot. And we know I went against them last night, and as I mentioned, they should have lost that game. The Thunder are in a back-to-back, and now they're having to travel from Golden State up to Portland. So not like huge travel, really, but still traveling. They're playing a third game in 4 days, although the first 2 of those are in the same city in San Francisco against Golden State. And they're playing a 4th game in 6 days, and actually a 5th in 7 days in 4 different cities, because they were at Phoenix, and then they came home to Oklahoma City to play San Antonio and wiped them out after blowing out Phoenix. So they've won all 4 of those games. They're on this huge win streak, and everybody's going to love what they're seeing out of the Thunder now. Like, they look unstoppable right now. They killed Phoenix. They killed San Antonio, although I don't think anybody really cares about that. Then they just swept Golden State back-to-back. And like I said, really probably should have lost. Certainly had no business covering. They actually won by 7, not 6 in OT last night. Didn't really have business covering that number there, I would not say. I'm salty, but what can you do? I think that it was the right side in that one, the right play to be on Golden State in that zigzag. Now coming off all of that, now you finish this weird road trip out in Golden State and Portland by facing the Portland Trailblazers with no time off. After that big overtime game that was the late game last night, although this is going to be a late game as well, but not as late, I don't think. 9 p.m. my time instead of, I think the other one was 10 p.m. maybe. This is not a good spot for them. I think after those 2 games, you've got to be in a letdown spot. You put in so much effort in those games, overtime. Now you got to go to Portland. Like, are you really going to want to go out to Portland and play the Portland Trailblazers? And as I keep mentioning, man, Oklahoma City, Gilgeous-Alexander, he's like a one-man show out there. And, like, it seems like some teams haven't been able to stop him, but, like, the recipe for doing that is there, I think. And some teams have been able to kind of do that. And if you do, I think you're able to slow down Oklahoma City enough, because their scoring is just not spread out enough for my liking. And it's just all him. So that's the other thing about this Thunder team, is that they're sitting at 9-4 now on this huge win streak, beating the Golden State Warriors and really sending them maybe kind of spiraling. I don't even really know, but everybody's going to look at that and just love the Thunder right now and want nothing to do with a team like the Trailblazers, of course, because what have they done? They've done nothing. They're on a loss streak that's pretty bad. They're 3-9. How many games have they lost in a row? I don't know, a lot. They were 3-3, so they've lost 6 straight games. Some of them were to pretty good teams, though. 2 losses to the LA Lakers, an overtime loss to Sacramento on the road. Losing to Utah badly doesn't look that good. They lost to Cleveland at home on a return home, excuse me, which is a difficult spot, and Cleveland's not that bad a team. So I don't know. Is Portland a bit undervalued? Maybe. Portland, on the other hand, has also been getting pretty much, their top scorer has been Grant, although it hasn't been as lopsided as the Gilgeous-Alexander situation has been. But in any case, Portland's not traveling. They're staying at home. They just lost 2 games at home. This is their final game of the homestand. They're going to want to get something out of this. Got to salvage the homestand, man. They got, like I said, 1 day of rest, 1 day off. Their previous 2 games in this homestand, they lost both of them by double digits to Cleveland and to the Lakers. They're going to want to turn it around. They got a hot team coming into the town. They're going to be focused. I think they need to turn around. They need to get a win here. You're only asking them, if you're playing them against the spread, you're only asking them to come within 7 here, within the number. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's the strongest play on the board. I think Oklahoma City is in the worst situation on the NBA card today. Got to go against it. They're laying way too many points on the road in this situation, so that's what I'm doing. We're going with the Portland Trailblazers +7, and I said, you saw me do it live. Sacramento Kings -1.5. Those are the 2 NBA plays. I got the 3 NFL plays, and I kind of talked about them in this video too. And I'm a little bit nervous about them, to be honest, but I thought they were the best situations on the board, so that's what I'm rolling with. Hopefully we get there. We're off a monster Saturday. Have a good NFL Sunday. Let's get it going, man. Let's do it. Peace.